DAE get upset from seeing trash on the side of the road or etc.? Yes. When I was a kid I used to count the tires along the riverbank on my 2-mile drive home from church. I got to 60 but there was definitely more, I just couldn't count that fast. When I go on walks I always end up leaving with so much random trash. I get people don't care, but what angers me the most is people who go out to smoke weed, no weed hate, and leave the wrappers to their blunts. All their snack trash and a bunch of random bullshit like shoes. Smoke outside. Enjoy nature. Just stop leaving trash. Frown. I get that the trash disappears because I scoop it up, but half the time I'm sure it disappears down the creek too and it infuriates me. It's just such a regular trash deposit spot at this point. Bothers the hell out of me to take the dogs out for a walk and someone has thrown a bag full of fast food trash out of the car. Car drivers are the worst for trash. We started a Tidy Buds campaign a few years ago to stop the stigma for cannabis smokers. During lockdowns we would go to local parks and clean up. Doing all this, the worst places are beside the main roads. The amount of trash people threw out their windows is disgraceful. In college I would take my dog on long walks almost every day after I got home from the gym. There were several places we would walk by that always had litter, especially around the frat houses and train tracks. I eventually built a cart for my dog to pull. And I would bring one of those grabber things old people use. And pretty much every single day we would bring back a milk crate full of trash. I did that for a couple of years. I cleaned up a few spots but don't really feel like I made a dent in the overall litter situation because I almost never failed to fill the cart. I think I did the math on the average number of cans I was collecting and determined I was making a few dollars per week in scrap. Fellas, how did you finally learn to start loving yourself? Once I stopped comparing myself to others I found I started liking me quite a bit more. You need to get out of your head. Realize that people don't think about you as much as you think they do. The only things in life that are important to worry about are health and your family. Everything else is noise. For me, I stopped hanging around with weak men. Started exercising regularly and ensuring my family time was plentiful and I was a good father figure to my son. All things can form habits. If you practice being a good person and a good father you will become them. If you practice being fit and healthy you will become that. Once you're a fit and healthy, responsible, valuable human, you look in the mirror and shoot yourself some finger bullets because you made it. I can't speak of loving oneself because I'm not there yet, but I've accepted myself and I feel like that's enough for me. The top 3 things that worked for me may not apply to you or others. /therapy, thank God it's free here. /an incredibly kind girlfriend, with a bad childhood. Meaning she can relate to my problems somewhat, but that's not a must. / focusing on what my actual attributes / skills are. I don't need to look good. I want to look decent. I don't need to be the best at anything. I'd just like to be quite good at some stuff to be able to talk about it, etc. And this helped me feel okay with myself. When I became a person that I could actually respect and admire. Years ago, I finally had the guts to tell myself that I was a fat, weak, self-indulgent loser who was eating himself into an early grave and life was going to pass me by before I know it. I am glad I snapped out of it. And I eventually became a strong, fit, disciplined person who has been successful to various degrees in terms of my education, career, and personal life. Women of Reddit, what is your favorite dinosaur? I've always been fascinated by the Brachiosaurus because of its enormous size and its long neck, which allowed it to reach high up into trees for food. It's incredible to imagine such a giant creature roaming the earth millions of years ago. I am not a woman but I want to answer. Saurophaganax, Allosaurus, Megalosaurus, medium, well-balanced, hunters, Giganotosaurus, Carcharodontosaurus, Mapusaurus, huge carnivores, Carnotaurus, what a build, Troodon, intelligent, Quetzalcoatlus, giant flyer, Ankylosaurus, tank, unique, Stegi. I grew up in the museum. My mother was a scientist there who focused on conservation. I spent every summer running around the Museum of Nature in Ottawa. And I loved the Stegosaurus so much that I used to drink all of my juice and water from a Stegi mug. Lol. Iguanodon, specifically the model Iguanodon in the park near where I used to live in London. There's a set of dinosaur sculptures there that were made in the Victorian era, when paleontology was still quite a new thing. So the dinosaurs look a lot different than a modern reconstruction would. But that's why I love them. Because they're just a bit skew-whiff, but they're still very treasured by the community and a bit of a local icon. There's more information about them here, https://cpdinosaurs.org/visit/what are Crystal Palace dinosaurs /https://cpdinosaurs.org/visit/what are Crystal Palace dinosaurs/. Also for fellow dinosaur enthusiasts. I highly recommend the Terrible Lizards podcast. Have you ever been in a situation and immediately get a childhood flashback of one of your parents doing the exact same thing? My dad was a trucker driver, and only home every 3 days or so. I remember as a kid listening to him pull up in the middle of the night. He would always come in and check on me and my siblings and give the back door handle a shake to make sure it was locked. Even after decades I can still clearly hear those sounds. I'm now a shift worker, and recently had my siblings staying with me. They all had a laugh the next day at me checking in on them before checking the back door was locked and going to bed. I guess old habits die hard. When my partner told me I don't know where an amp, LT, Whatever he was searching for in AMP, GT, is because you keep moving things around and rearranging the kitchen. I suddenly realized I had become my mom. I answered the same as she does, it never moved and was always stored there. Do you even live here? Sigh. On almost a daily basis I'll catch myself doing some small little mannerism or saying something with an inflection that stops me in my tracks and makes me go, oh, I just sounded exactly like my dad. I'm only 29. But it's crazy how much we really do just morph into what we know without even realizing it. All the frigging time. Especially at BBQs and kids' parties. Standing around with a drink talking to the other parents. The kids running around the place like crazy. I think back and can still see and feel what it was like to be a kid at my parents' old house. Looking up at all the adults milling around. They felt so big, worldly, and in control. Now I know they were just winging it mostly, doubly so since I had my kids about 10 years later than my folks. Edit, typos.